We thank you kindly for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to join us this afternoon to learn about an exciting opportunity with Fair Chance. My name is Gina Fulbright-Powell, and I have the pleasure to serve as the Director of Programs here at Fair Chance. With me today to share firsthand information about our partnership is one of our staff members, Reginald Grant, who is a capacity building specialist. This is a title that we use at Fair Chance for the staff member that works directly with our executive directors of nonprofit organizations that are serving youth here in Washington, D.C. And we have the great pleasure of also having with us Nicole Lynn Lewis, who is the founder and CEO, and we'll be referring to her as the executive director, of Generation Hope, which is one of the organizations that has benefited from the Fair Chance partnership. So by the end of the hour today, we would like for you, we expect that you will have a better understanding of the capacity building process provided by Fair Chance, and we'll do that through discussions of our mission and our partnership model and the experience of one of the executive directors and the Fair Chance staff, Nicole and Reggie, who worked with her. We will also provide important information about our application process and due dates. At the end of the hour, we will allow time for you to ask any questions that you might have. So if you have a question as you're listening to our presentation, please just jot it down, make a note, and we'll come back to that at the end of the presentation. Fair Chance was founded in 2003. Fair Chance is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that leverages the power of community-based organizations that transform the lives of children and youth living in poverty. We have an application process that we'll talk more about, and through that process we select promising organizations and we provide to them at no cost to them at all organizational management services. We have worked over the years with more than 90 organizations, and we recognize that the failure rate of nonprofit organizations is about 15%. And we're very proud to say that the 90-plus organizations that we've worked with, that 95% of them are still operating and provided needed services to underserved youth and families in the Washington, D.C. area. Our model provides organizational management services that improve the performance and sustainability of nonprofit organizations. And through our partnership, Fair Chance provides, the Fair Chance staff provides coaching and expertise in 8 of the areas of organizational competency, board development, communication and outreach, financial management, fundraising, human resources, leadership development, program evaluation, and strategic planning. You will recognize that all of these areas are really critical to the effective operation of nonprofit organizations and, of course, to their sustainability. Through the partnership, organizations grow and become more sustainable, and our executive directors with whom our Fair Chance staff work with one-on-one increase their knowledge, their skills, and their confidence in running and managing these most important nonprofit organizations. The Fair Chance, what the partnership, we want to be clear, we use the term consulting, but it's not in, we provide consulting services, but not in the traditional sense of consulting relationship where an individual comes into an organization and does work for a specific group. What instead we do is we provide one-on-one coaching, we provide customized organization management services, and our staff really serve as a thought partner with the executive director of the organization. And Reggie and Nicole will talk more about that relationship. And one other thing I wanted to mention is that the staff, the Fair Chance staff person, is really not an extra pair of hands for the nonprofit organizations. They're really an extra brain to work with the executive director to help him or her think through different issues that they are facing and to incorporate really sound organizational practices to create a more effective and efficient operation of the nonprofit. Our partnership is a five-phase partnership where we first go through a pretty rigorous application process. And then we go through a selection process, which is equally rigorous. And then once we select, and it's typically up to 10 organizations, once they've been selected, they are assigned a capacity building specialist, which is the Fair Chance staff person. And then they go through an assessment process together to identify where the organization is strong, where the organization needs additional infrastructure support. Then we move into the year-long partnership, and Reggie and Nicole will talk more about that. Then at the conclusion of the year-long partnership, we celebrate in fine style and have a graduation ceremony. And then at the graduation ceremony, the executive director and alumni and their organization are inducted into our alumni network. One thing I would like to mention in addition is the fact that our staff are really seasoned individuals. They have very deep and broad experience in the nonprofit sector. Many have served as executive directors of organizations and other senior level positions in nonprofit organizations. They have advanced degrees in organization development, the legal field, and nonprofit management, and have been serving in this capacity for a number of years. So I mentioned and introduced to you off screen Reginald Grant, who's one of our capacity building specialists, and he also serves as our manager of network services. And I'm going to ask Reggie to come on camera now so that he can share with you information about the network services, which is a part of our partnership program. We always have this saying that once a Fair Chance partner, always a Fair Chance partner. as we become very invested in the executive directors and their organizations. And then Reggie, after he talks about network services, he will talk more about the partnership and introduce our special guest, Nicole Lewis, and they will talk more about their experience as capacity building specialist and executive director. Reggie?
Thank you so much, Gina, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, as Gina shared earlier, I will walk us through the network services program for Fair Chance. So Fair Chance Network Services Program provides partners and alumni access to continued learning and professional development opportunities within a skilled and supportive community. And we do this by 4 major components, as I call them. So we offer quarterly workshops, and those quarterly workshops consist of topical trainings in nonprofit management, so that are really aligned with our 8 core competencies that Gina spoke of earlier. We also offer an executive director learning community, and we offer about 4 of those a year. And that is a private learning community for the executive directors who are part of the partnership. And that is facilitated by our executive director, Fair Chance's executive director, Gretchen Vanderveer. And again, this is a facilitated conversation around issues that affect the executive directors. We recognize that sometimes in the executive director's role is a lonely position, and so we try to build a community where executive directors are able to build with one another and strengthen their networks. We also offer a partner e-form in the same vein of strengthening your networks. This is our listserv that's only for Fair Chance executive directors, so you have to become a partner in order to have access to this e-form, our partner e-form. And here is where an executive director can post to the community what are some recommended auditors that you've had great experience with, and that gives them the opportunity to ask the network, and the network can respond and has responded. It also is an opportunity for, if you are trying to connect resources and connect services, you're able to do so for your participants. And so we encourage all of our partners and partner executive directors to use the partner e-form. And finally, we also have a pro bono legal consultation with our partnership with Hogan Lovells. So again, you have a free partnership, free legal expertise and consultation as a result of this partnership. So it looks like you will apply, you would fill out a form to Fair Chance. Actually, to me, I will forward it to Hogan Lovells, and you will be contacted by one of their attorneys who specializes in nonprofit. And so we try to offer an array of these services, and these services are ever-changing to meet the needs of the network. And so I'll move forward to what to expect from the partnership. Gina talked about what the partnership really entails. So I'll go a little deeper. And so our partnership is comprehensive, demanding, rewarding, and transformative. And so when I say comprehensive, I mean that we provide an organizational assessment. So once you've been selected as a partner, the capacity building specialist will come in and conduct an organizational assessment in our 8 competency areas. From that organizational assessment, we will create a work plan with you. We recognize that the work plan is a fluid document, so though we set it at the beginning of the partnership that will actually guide our work through the year, we recognize that there may be some other challenges that address the organization. So we want to make sure that we are able to create a document and create a work plan that is flexible to address the realities of the organization real time. And so during that phase, we will have a work plan consisting of those 8 competencies with also goals to support each of those competency areas. And then we get into the meat of the work. The Fair Chance capacity building specialist would work up to 8 hours a week for your organization, providing training, being able to do research, creating tools. Now that may look like our face-to-face interaction may typically be 2 hours a week, an identified day that's most accommodating to your schedule and to the schedule of you and the capacity building specialist. But this is where the meat of the work happens. Gina talked about this thought partnership. A lot of that happens most of that happens during our weekly meeting. So that's the core of our work. And then we may involve staff and other board members. Now, in this organizational assessment, we request that our executive directors and partners bring in their board chairs and board representatives during the board assessment phase so that we get a comprehensive review of the organization. So it's not just what the executive director feels about the board, it is also what are the realities from the board chair's perspective. Demanding. I talked a little bit about these weekly meetings. So we go up to 8 hours a week to your organization. Again, the face-to-face time may look like 2 hours. You will be assigned some independent work. And so in the work plan, we identified some of the tactics that we'll take to actually address or to accomplish our intended goals. And so some of that work is done along with you, by yourself. We support you in that, and you are able to then complete your assignment, your independent work, and so that when we meet the next week, we're able to move forward with the rest of the work plan. Data submission. Now, being a part of Fair Chance, because we are a no cost to the organization, we request that you provide us with information for your groups, for your participants. So that may look like an end of the year end of the year survey tool that will come from our evaluation department. So, and we look for in network services as well. You will have a network services survey as well. So we look for that constant flow of information and just reporting back on the success of your organization. Again, we also encourage you to be a part of the network participation, as I spoke earlier about in our 4 different programs. Rewarding. On average, nonprofits, as you can see here, in our evaluation, we were able to find that on average, nonprofits complete their first year Fair Chance. They increase in these 4 major areas. Now, this is just a highlight that you see: board development, fundraising, program evaluation, and strategic planning. That these areas you've seen at least a 25% gain as a result of a partnership with Fair Chance. And transformative. Fair Chance alumni organizations reported a 50% median increase in revenue and number of youth served within 5 years of completing the partnership. So what has truly has happened since Fair Chance's inception is we've seen that over time that groups who've gone through this partnership increase the number of youth they serve and also increase their revenue. And so I've talked a little bit about network services and a little bit about the partnership, just a little more in depth. I want to just bring it to life for you. And so I want to bring on an executive director, the founder and CEO of Generation Hope, Nicole Lynn Lewis, to really talk a little bit about what that partnership looks like and what it feels like from the executive director standpoint. So please join me, Nicole Lynn Lewis. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here, Nicole.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Nicole, before we begin to unpack a little bit what the partnership looked like, could you share just very briefly a little bit about Generation Hope?
Sure. So Generation Hope is a nonprofit organization. We help teen mothers and teen fathers earn their college degrees here in the DC metro region by supporting them with financial and emotional support. So each of the students in our program receives up to $2,400 a year in college tuition support, and they also have access to an emergency fund in case there's a crisis situation that they encounter that could derail them from classes or adequately parenting their child. And then we also provide emotional support with our one-on-one mentoring, and that's probably the most significant aspect of our program in terms of how it impacts our students. Each of the individuals in our program is matched with a caring person in the community who's devoted to helping them walk across the graduation stage.
Well, that's great. Thanks so much for that, Nicole. Nicole, I was remiss to say Nicole is also was a candidate for the CNN Heroes, as well as a Fair Chance graduate, 2014 graduate. So let's jump right in, Nicole. So why did you apply for the partnership?
I applied for the partnership because I think when we applied, it was 2013. I think we were about 3 years old as an organization, so we were a young organization, and while we were growing and we were thriving, there was a lot of excitement about our work. We knew that we really needed to take it to the next level, take the organization to the next level in order for us to meet the need here in the D.C. area, or to better meet the need. So we have thousands of teen parents all across the D.C. region who really could benefit from the services that only Generation Hope provides. And how do we do that? And we knew that was really through increasing our capacity as an organization. So I was really excited about the idea that we would be working with, you know, experts on nonprofit management and capacity and best practices, who would be able to really come in and provide guidance and really assess the organization and help us strengthen all of these different areas. For us as a young organization, that was extremely important, and I really believe that it was something we needed to do again in order to take the organization to the next level. And my board was equally enthusiastic about that opportunity. And quite frankly, Gina mentioned that it's consulting, not in the traditional sense, but it's consulting that we as an organization would not have been able to afford. If we had had to come up with the cost for that, it would have been impossible for us. So it was a wonderful opportunity that we wanted to seize.
Yeah, and you know, Nicole, you brought up some really good points there. You know, and other groups who have gone through the partnership have spoken about they were just ready. That sense of just being ready. They wanted to move their organization forward, push their missions, and really wanted to really build up the back office, and they really credit Fair Chance for helping them to create that.
Absolutely.
So, Nicole, what were some of the organizations, you talked a little bit about being ready, but what were some of the organizational development areas that you knew you needed? It seemed like you had a really good feel about where you were, even though you were a young organization, but what were some of the areas you knew you needed to address during the partnership year?
Well, I think like many nonprofits, fundraising was something that we definitely wanted to address and address it quickly. We were excited about having some guidance, some expertise, and some support around fundraising. We also knew that we needed a strategic plan in place. We had, again, we were about 3 years old when the partnership began, and we had a strategic plan that carried us up through those 3 years, but hadn't mapped out the path for the next 3, and that was really crucial for us as an organization to know where we were going. So strategic planning was also important. Board development was a big one for us, that we had a wonderful group of individuals who had helped us launch the organization, but what were the skill sets that we were missing? How do we recruit additional individuals? What does that recruitment process look like? So board development was important. And then another key area was program evaluation. And we knew that we had this wonderful model, and how could we better capture the metrics around that to be able to communicate that it was effective and that we were doing what we said we were going to do and properly measuring that. So those were the key areas that we wanted to focus on.
Yes, I say that because there's a history, because Nicole and I have worked together for years. But some of the other groups that I've worked with have shared with the issue around HR. Many of the nonprofits, Nicole spoke a little about how they were building their, creating a strategic plan with a need. A lot of the groups are now ready to actually grow in a way, and they didn't have the back office support around HR. And so they wanted to create their HR infrastructure, but creating a HR manual, creating the onboarding process, the evaluation tool, the evaluation process, the offboarding process as well. And so those are some areas that Nicole, in addition to what Nicole said, we found that other groups were interested in those areas as well. So let's keep going, Nicole. So how did you work with your capacity building specialists when you met each week? What was that relationship like? What was it like, Nicole?
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We had a good time. That was something I didn't anticipate when applying for the program, is that I knew it was going to be a lot of work, but I really didn't anticipate that it was going to be a lot of fun as well. And so we had our weekly meetings, 2 hours FaceTime, and what I loved about those meetings is that they were both focused on the areas that were identified as needs areas for us to be talking about and working on, but at the same time they were flexible. So we had our agenda for the meeting, and we stuck to that agenda, but there were those times when I might have a crisis or something that I really needed to elevate to Reggie, that I could say, I know we have our agenda, but I need your advice on this thing that just popped up, which we know happens all the time, and it was great because then we could say, okay, let's readjust the agenda to talk about this crisis or something that's going on that we need to address. And I think that's important because it's not so rigid that you can't work on the things that do pop up that executive directors often have to deal with. But it also is very focused. So at the end of our partnership, I definitely felt like we had addressed all of those important things that we had identified at the beginning, but we had also addressed some things that had come up along the way that I really needed Reggie's input and advice on. So I think those it was great. It was fun. We were flexible, but we were also very strategic in the things that we wanted to get done.
I think that the one thing that makes Fair Chance unique, of course, other than our model, is the fact that this relationship that's developed. We worked with you for the executive directors for a year, and so we really get a chance to learn each other, learn the ways that we best interpret information, our communication styles. We get an opportunity to really form relationships that are life-lasting in some instances. So you get a thought partner, but you also get a champion, someone who really supports you and someone who really roots for your organization to win and roots for you to win. That's something that's very unique to the Fair Chance partnership. And so, Nicole, how did you manage? You talked about, hey, we were doing this work, we were building rapport, building relationships, and so recognizing an executive director that is less than 5 years old at the time you apply for your partnership, you had a lot of things on your plate. How did you manage to find the time for this effort, for the Fair Chance partnership, in addition to everything else you were doing as an ED?
I think it's not really finding the time, because I'm sure as the EDs can all attest to, there is no time that's just sitting in your calendar, 2 hours or 8 hours a week that you can devote to something. So if you're looking to find the time, you're not going to find it. But I do think it's about prioritizing and saying that this is something that's important to me, it's important to the organization, we value it, and so I'm going to, again, adjust my schedule so that I make the time. So I think that's exactly what I did. I mean, we were 3 years old. Again, we had money to raise, we had things to do, we had program evaluation, strategic planning, all of these different things that really had to have my full attention. But I also knew that this was really important to the growth of the organization, and so I made time. And I think that that's something that I would encourage people who are thinking about applying, is that this is worth it. This is an amazing opportunity, and while you probably have a jam-packed schedule, it's worth every second, and it's worth you putting other things off in order to make it happen.
Right. I know it's interesting, Nicole, as I was the former executive director of a youth-serving nonprofit here in D.C. as well. And so I knew about investing in my students, I knew about investing in my staff, but what I did not do well was take time to invest in me.
Yeah.
And I think this partnership gives you an opportunity to really stop, take pause, and really commit to the work of strengthening your ability to be a stronger manager as you strengthen the organization's infrastructure as well. So, Nicole, I know you spoke a little bit about your board at the beginning of this partnership, but what role did your board play, and how has it influenced their involvement post-partnership? So now that you've gone through the year, what has this been the shift in your board?
Well, the board obviously I had to get their permission to do this, and so they were well aware from the beginning of the partnership. I think it became very clear very early on the benefits of the partnership as I continued to work with Reggie and Fair Chance, and incorporating some of the best practices into our board meetings and into our fundraising events and everywhere across the organization. So they started to really see the benefits of it. But I think probably they played a really significant role in the strategic planning that we did. Reggie facilitated our strategic planning process, and we had a 2-day retreat with the board as a part of that process, and they got to see firsthand how wonderful Fair Chance's capacity building specialists really are, and just felt that whole experience, the strategic planning experience and the retreat was phenomenal, and it really allowed us as a board to work together to figure out which path was best for the organization over the next 3 years, to ask some really tough questions, and I think the board became a much more cohesive unit as a result of that strategic planning process. So it's been wonderful to see that transformation and to see that they had an opportunity to get a firsthand feel for how Fair Chance really works.
Yeah, I think it's very important that, I showed a slide earlier that talked about the rewarding pieces of the Fair Chance partnership, and I shared with you that before partnership it was rated at out of a 4 scale, a 1.3 when they first came into the partnership, many of the groups that came into the partnership. And once they completed the partnership, you saw a 25% increase of confidence and learning and structure built into the board. So I think, Nicole, your board was, again, ready for this partnership. Your board was also one that was really open to learning and to growing and to incorporating best practices. And that recognizing that they didn't know everything, but recognized they were committed to learn to do that. So I think many groups out there, you can say, well, my board may not be ready for such an engagement, but what I would say to you is give your board more credit. Maybe that this opportunity could actually get them aligned with the organization and really energize them in a way to get committed to the work of the board. And so, Nicole, we talked a little bit about the organization, your board, but I want to talk about you. What do you feel were some direct benefits from you in this partnership? Like, what changed? What did you learn, and how did you how did you grow as a result?
There are so many things. I think for us as a young organization, and for me as a young leader and founder, I felt the partnership, I came out of it feeling really good about where we were as an organization at that point. We were young, and you're running and you're working and you're trying to take care of everything, and to have someone come and say, no, you're actually doing this right, and you're on the right track, and to kind of give a stamp of approval on things, it gave me more confidence, I think, as a leader and as a young leader. And I think also just being well-versed now in best practices in a way that I wasn't before, understanding more deeply, what makes for a more efficient board, and what program evaluation really should look like. I mean, you're learning and you're kind of piecemealing together workshops and books and things like that, but to sit down with someone and to really go deep and have an honest, real conversation about what that looks like in your particular organization, I came out of the partnership feeling really good about understanding and knowing and implementing best practices across the organization. So that was important for me, again, as a young leader in a new organization.
Yeah. I think that Nicole is echoing we have a graduation at the end of the year for organizations and executive directors who go through the partnership. And I encourage you to go to our website and look at some of those, the highlights from those graduations, because many of the groups, many of the executive directors have shared the same thing that you're expressing right now, Nicole. So I have another question, maybe somewhat similar to what I've just asked. You can say, Reggie, it's somewhat similar, but it's fine. But in addition to some of the direct impact that you've had that has happened as a result of working with your capacity building, as a result of working with me and Fair Chance, what were some other benefits? Like, we offer network services and things of that nature, but what are some other benefits that you've received with Fair Chance, the connections that have been made?
Yes, absolutely. I think one thing that's important to know, and we definitely saw this at Generation Hope, is that being a Fair Chance partner is really a stamp of approval as an organization. It is evidence of the fact that you are committed to nonprofit best practices, that you're investing time, which is money, into making sure that you are, bringing your organization to the next level. And I think for us, when funders saw in our applications that we were a Fair Chance partner or a Fair Chance alum, it definitely gave us some credibility with those funders to say, wow, maybe we weren't considering this organization before because they were too small, but now they've completed their Fair Chance partnership, which really communicates to us that they want to be here for the long haul, that they are committed to sustainability. And that was huge for us, again, as a young organization, to have funders look at us in a different way because we had gone through this very in-depth process with Fair Chance. So I think definitely we see it with funders, we see it with individuals who know about Fair Chance, understand the model, and are more willing to work with us or to make a donation. So I think it definitely communicates to your external folks that you are an organization that's committed to excellence.
Sure. So Nicole, I know that we have, I know that we've went through the partnership. We've really, I think, unpacked a lot of the things that I think many of the people were interested in wanting to know about, especially executive directors. But if you could give them two tips in terms of this partnership, what would they be?
I would say make the time. So I think not only, if you're going to apply to the program, which I highly encourage you to do, go into it knowing that it is going to be an investment of time, but make sure that you make the time throughout the whole partnership, that you're not saying you're going to do it in the application, but then it's not really playing out in your week to week with your capacity building specialist. Make time, make it a priority, and then I think do the work. Reggie and Gina mentioned that there's independent work that happens between the meetings. Reggie and I would be on the phone, on Google Hangout, trying to figure things out throughout the week before our next meeting. And I think that was really important because it allowed us at that next meeting to carry that work forward. And ultimately, you want to get the work done at the end of your partnership. You want to see those outcomes and that improvement and the impact, and it really happens in between those meetings and at those meetings. So make the time and do the work, and just make it a priority. Make it a priority.
I think one thing Nicole opened up with is a lot of fun. The work can be, I know it may not sound exciting, but it can be a lot of fun. And Fair Chance, the capacity building specialist, we do our best to make sure that we bring enthusiasm, energy, as well as best practices to the door and to you and to your organization. But thank you so much, Nicole, for sharing your experience. I'm going to turn it back over to Gina Fulbright-Powell for our partnership eligibility requirements.
Wow. Thank you, Nicole, very much, and Reggie. It's always important to hear directly from a person or a set of people who have experienced what we're actually talking about. So we appreciate that, and I'm sure our audience does as well. So how do you become a Fair Chance partner? Now that we've talked about the partnership, we have a set of eligibility requirements, as most organizations do. And what we are looking for are, first of all, for organizations that are serving youth and children that are living in poverty in Washington, D.C. We are looking for organizations that currently have the tax-exempt status of a 501c3 under the Internal Revenue Service Code. We are looking for executive directors who are full-time, and that means that they are dedicating 40 hours a week to the organization. Don't have to be paid. It could be paid or unpaid, but we need that level of commitment. Nicole talked about and Reggie talked about the time requirement and the element of and the importance of making time for the partnership. So it really does not work. We've tried it in the past. It does not work for an executive director to be working part-time and to be able to devote adequate time to the partnership. We are also looking for executive directors who have been in their position as executive directors for at least 6 months. And this would be 6 months as of January 11th, 2016. And that is the actual date that the applications are due. We are looking for organizations that have a board of directors that includes at least 3 individuals, and one of those individuals needs to be designated as the board chair. We talked about some of the commitments of the executive director in terms of being able to devote up to 8 hours a week to the partnership. And we are also looking for the board chairs to be involved in the assessment process and also involved in the process of the work as needed. Keep in mind that the primary relationship in the partnership is between the Fair Chance staff person titled Capacity Building Specialist and the executive director of the organization, but depending on what areas are being focused on, the board chair may need to be involved. And of course, we need their involvement and have asked for their involvement during our orientation program and during our graduation ceremony. We are looking for organizations that have been in operation for and providing the services that they are engaged in for at least a year. We are also looking for organizations that have a mission or at least one program that addresses the specific needs of children and youth, and we've defined that as ages 0 to 24 who are living in poverty in Washington, D.C. We have determined that while important, it's not a requirement, and we don't want to discourage people who do not meet this particular element or these 2 particular elements, but we're looking for organizations who at least 50% of the children and youth participating in their programs are D.C. residents living in poverty. We know that many of the nonprofits in the area are now serving outside of the Washington, D.C. area. Nicole's program, Generation Hope, is one such program. But we are looking for organizations that are primarily providing services to children and youth living in Washington, D.C. We're also looking for organizations who can demonstrate a commitment of funding and resources sufficient to support their operations and programs for the next year. And as I said, these are areas when described on your application, we're able to give special consideration to these organizations, and if you do not have those particular factors, we need you to be honest when you're completing the application, but that would not be a disqualifier for you, and so we would encourage you to apply as long as you meet the basic eligibility requirements that I just mentioned. We also know in this area that there are a number of organizations that are local affiliates or chapters of national nonprofits, and so we have additional requirements for them as well. We are looking for them to ensure that they're able to meet and be responsive to the local needs of the community here. And we're also looking to know that their board of directors is focused on their work in the D.C. area. So we're going to talk a little bit about the application, and the application that we have is designed to provide a pretty in-depth overview of the organization and provide background on the executive director, since that person will be most heavily engaged in the partnership. a little later, we'll talk about and provide the web address for you to access the application. It is online, and we do require that it be completed and submitted online. In the application, we will ask you to complete an eligibility checklist, which actually will attest to the fact that you qualify for the partnership based on the eligibility requirements that I've described and are included in the application itself. We ask for information in terms of how to contact the executive director and the organization. We ask that we have information, that you share information about the structure and leadership of your organization. And we also ask financial management information and information regarding your fundraising efforts, which we know is also critical to nonprofits. We ask additional information about the programs that you offer and services to youth and children living in poverty, and we ask for specific data to support that information. And we want to know where you are in terms of considering and moving forward in terms of opportunities for growth. So there are a number of documents that we ask for, and you will be required to attach those to your application, and that will all be uploaded and sent to us. And the first is your letter from the Internal Revenue Service that indicates your 501c3 status. We need to have a list of your board of directors or any other members that are involved as a part of a governing body of your organization. We want to know and have a list of staff members, your most recent Form 990, organizational budget information, and that would include budget to actuals for the current and the previous fiscal year. We also are looking to have a recent statement within the last 12 months of your financial position. We will ask for some details around funding that you have commitments for, funding that you're expecting to receive as well. If you have an evaluation report about your program operations, that's useful, not required. We also ask that you submit one additional information that's completed by the board chair, and Nicole mentioned this as well, and it's really a document that affirms the support of your board for the executive director engaging in the partnership, because it is a real time commitment, and we want to ensure that the board of directors knows what's going on and supports the executive director's efforts. We can pause now and allow you, our listening audience, an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. On your screen, there you will see a text box for questions, and there are a set of icons on the left side of your screen, and ask that you click on the orange box, which is the second from the top, or I'm sorry, it's at the top of your screen. If the arrow is pointing to the left, that means that the box is minimized, so just click on it again and it will open up, and you will be able to type, as at the bottom of that screen any question that you might have. So we know that there might be a little delay in terms of from the time that you are typing and the time that we see your message. So we will allow some time for that. And while we're waiting to see your questions, I just want to mention to you that this webinar is being recorded and it will be available for you to share with others on your staff if you'd like to share it with a board member who'd like to know more about the partnership and the application process. We invite you to do that as well. And at this point, we'll still allow a few more minutes at this point. I'm not seeing any questions. I'm wondering if you think that we've been that clear. If so, that's wonderful. So let me give you the Fair Chance website, which is also the place where you can access this recording. It is www.fairchancedc, and that's FAIRCHANCEDC.org. And Salome has placed that up on the screen for you to see. And so in addition to, we do have a question that Salome will bring up, and we will provide an answer in just a moment. But on the website, you'll find this recorded information, this recorded webinar in about 2 days. And you'll find additional information about Fair Chance, and you'll also find a link to the application. Another web address for the application or for any questions that you might have is applications@fairchancedc.org. So Salome, will we be sending a copy of the presentation via email? We will not be sending that via email. It will be recorded, and you can link to the webinar. Do you work with groups who are based in Maryland but serve children in D.C. as well? Yes. That goes back to one of the priority considerations is that we would be looking for organizations that the makeup of their program would be about 50% of children in D.C. How many capacity building specialists do we have on staff? Right now, we have 5 capacity building specialists and an evaluation specialist working with us. Are there additional last-minute questions? We have just a few minutes left. So while you might be typing in any additional question, I again would like to thank Nicole very, very much for taking time out of, I'm sure, a very busy day to share with you all her experience firsthand with the partnership, and thank Reggie for his great work as a capacity building specialist and for helping to put together this webinar and for sharing information about his partnership with Nicole. And thanks Salome for Odair for providing a lot of the technical support for us and for this webinar. And you see the website addresses to get more information about Fair Chance and to pose any questions that you might and submit your applications. So again, thank you all very much for your interest. Most importantly, know that the application deadline is January 11th, 2016. Our advice to you would be, if you're considering submitting an application, go ahead this week to open the application so you can see what is required for yourself in addition to the information that we've shared, and begin gathering your documents. It is going to take a little while to gather all of the information needed for the application to be able to submit it. So we look forward to receiving your application and hopefully working with you as a Fair Chance partner. Thank you very much and have a great afternoon.